Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. And before we get into it with our guest here today, I'd like to remind everyone that if you enjoy this content, to please give a like and subscribe down below. I'd greatly appreciate it. We have Kamarae Morales on the podcast. Did I get that right?
Yes, you did.
Yes! Okay, I'm happy I got that right. Okay, everyone, she's from Alaska, so anyone that's been a long-time listener knows that I'm trying to get Alaska and Hawaii on the podcast, and she's half Hawaiian too, so I would count that if I didn't have a Hawaiian guest coming out in this Saturday that I'm recording with. But so we are finally going to get all the 50 states done. But yeah, she's from Alaska, so probably the one guest that can have a colder climate than me that I've ever talked to. I mean, I've talked to Canadians, and I ask them what the temperature is, and it's not even not even close to what it is here. But yeah, she's on here to share her fitness journey and yeah, just discuss all things health and fitness. But most importantly, she's our current guest. Thank you so much for coming on.
I'm so stoked to be here. So thank you so much for having me.
Well, I do ask this to a lot of people, so I will continue the tradition. What is the weather like today?
Today it is actually it says 3 degrees right now. So it's 3 degrees, but it's super sunny and gorgeous. We just started getting sunlight back in the mornings. So in the winter, it's like the sun doesn't come up until about 10 o'clock in the morning and then it sets about 4 o'clock at night. So that's pretty intense. And now it's coming up about 7 o'clock in the morning and going down about 7 o'clock at night. So we're at that happy medium. It's going to start to go the other way to where we're getting no darkness. So by June, we get 24 hours of sunlight.
I totally forgot about that. I forgot that like how extreme the sun is, especially up in Alaska. Because I remember hearing about there's like a midnight sun game. I'm a huge baseball fan that they play in
Yeah.
every summer where because the sun just keeps shining through like 3 a.m. They have a baseball game that starts at midnight and then they just play till like
Yep.
3 a.m. I forgot about that. That is so. How do you deal with that first off before we even get into your bodybuilding journey? Because to me, like seasonal depression is kind of a huge thing in Minnesota since it's just so dang cold here and it lasts so long. But
Yeah.
we have nothing compared to like you said, the sun getting up at 10 and then leaving at 4. How do you guys deal with that?
I mean, it's you hit it on the head. There is a lot of seasonal depression. It's rough. Like it is not. I'm not going to pretend it's not. Even when it comes to bodybuilding, because you got to have a regular sleep schedule. You got to be pretty regimented with those things. And when it's light at 11 o'clock at night, like when the sun starts to go down, you're like, okay, I need to start winding down. I'm gonna do my bedtime routine, that kind of stuff. But like that, those natural cues don't come. So blackout curtains. I never really dealt with seasonal depression until the last few years, but my husband's from Los Angeles, and so when he moved up here, that was a really big thing that he had to like understand. And that's kind of why I bodybuild is and why a lot of people do is because you need something to do in the winter. And yeah, you can go outside, there's snowboarding and snow sports and stuff like that, but you need something to kind of keep yourself busy. So being able to prep for shows, I mean, summer bodies are made in the winter. So you're prepping through the winter and then spring comes and it's time to go. So it gives you that like little bit of a goal to keep pushing for. And but it's rough. It's really hard to go to work when it's dark outside and then come home and it's dark outside and it's cold. So it's a you gotta really want to be here. It kind of sucks if you just find yourself here because it's not for everybody.
So wait a second. You convinced him to move up there, not vice versa?
No,
Okay.
he was in the military.
Okay.
So yeah, so we actually met at one of my bodybuilding shows. He was there seeing one of my friends and he had just moved up here and we met in April of 2015 at a show and then we still work that show. I competed in that show and yeah, we got married like 3 years after we met.
I was gonna say, what kind of sorcery do you have if you were able to convince a guy from LA to move all the way up to Alaska? But hey, that is awesome. So yeah, just to get things started, why don't you just give us your backstory on what inspired and motivated you to get in shape and how that led to where you're at right now?
Well, there was a lot that kind of I started bodybuilding when I was 20 and I'm going to be 30 this year. So all of my 20s I've been competing. I mean, original answer, like I've always been athletic. I played sports all through elementary school, middle school, high school, basketball, soccer, swimming. And after high school, I didn't really have any sports to play. I have a super addictive personality, and so I needed some sort of outlet. After high school, I kind of just started partying and drinking, and I didn't have that sport structure, and I just kind of went crazy. And when I was about 20, I was like, this isn't me. I had an injury while I was intoxicated, and that really kind of snapped me out of it. I was like, this is not what you need to be doing. So that was like October of 2013. And then February of 2014, I found my coaches. It was really important to me to have an in-person coach, and I live in Alaska, so it's hard. We don't have a ton of coaches, but I came across my coaches, Sean and Chintzia Clapp, and Sean is actually the Alaska chairman here in Alaska, and then Chintzia is the judging coordinator, and she's also an IFBB pro. So I found them, and we did my first body composition assessment in February of 2014. I competed in May of 2014 at the Denver Mile High. And then I've been competing ever since. So
So I mean, yeah, like you said, you've been competing for almost a decade now, and this is a sport that changes so much over time. What have been some of the biggest changes that you've seen from when you started to where you're at right now? Because to me personally, it's like a completely different sport, even in the 5 years that I've been doing a podcast about it.
yeah, so I actually started in figure, and then 2 weeks before I did figure, I was like, I don't like these heels. So I switched to women's physique, and I competed in figure and women's physique. I only did local shows my first few years, which I think that's the way the sport is structured. I think too much these days, social media plays a big part, and you see those one and done people who win their local show, and then they go to nationals and they win their pro card, and then they win their pro show, and then they're at the Olympia in 3 or 4 shows. And that was not the case for me. Like I have done pretty much every division. I started in women's physique and figure, and then in 2018, I did my very first national show. And I loved the package I brought. But that was actually the year that I saw a big shift in the physiques. I went in women's physique, and I had had teammates and my coach had all gotten their pro card. I'm a natural athlete, and they all got it in women's physique, and they were also natural. But that year when I showed up, the physiques had completely changed. They were really getting a lot bigger, a lot harder, a lot more extreme. And me being 24 years old, being natural, like I knew it was going to take a long time for me to build my physique and get to that level, especially naturally. So I actually switched that year, after after Universe in 2018. I switched to fitness, and I don't have a gymnastics background. I don't have a dance background. I am a contact sport person. So like dance, gymnastics, that's very foreign to me. But there were other reasons that played into it, but a big reason was the fitness category is a lot smaller. So you have a better chance of getting your pro card. So I competed my first like mini fitness routine, in 2018. And luckily, I've been surrounded by a lot of veteran fitness competitors. Like Tangi Johnson was my coach's coach, and my coach got her pro card in fitness as well. And then I had a bunch of teammates in fitness. So I had no background, but I had a ton of help. And so 2019, I went to Universe and competed in fitness. And I got fifth place, which was way farther than what I had gotten in women's physique, which I had gotten last call out in women's physique. And then 2020, I ended up winning my pro card at Universe in fitness. So yeah, so I've done every division. I've been except for bikini. I've got giant lats, so I can't do bikini.
I mean, I'm talking to the one person because I've had about a dozen fitness compares on. Yeah, like you're the one who didn't have a gymnastics or a dance background. It almost seems like you needed to have that to be a competitor, but I'm glad to hear that there are some at least that don't have that, precursor to being a fitness competitor, which is nice. But what was that struggle like then, not having that background? Because it feels like they have such a leg up on everyone else then that wouldn't have that background.
It's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. It is, because when you're doing fitness and when you're a competitive cheerleader or gymnastics, like performance is something you have to train, like learning how to warm up, learning how to practice. Like those are all things you have to learn, let alone learning how to do the skills and all these things. And in fitness, it's not required to do gymnastics or dance. Like we have 4 mandatory moves. They're mainly strength holds and flexibility. my strengths are my jumps and my strength moves, because I'm strong. I can do good push-ups. I can do good jumps. So I think that is I only know of one other girl who doesn't have any background in gymnastics or anything, and she actually went to the Olympia this year. Her name's Anna Chisholm, and she's great. She's so cool. Her routines are great, but I mean, I don't know anybody else's work ethic or what they do, but I have to work 10 times harder because it's like, I mean, I'm almost 30 learning how to do a back handspring. Like it's really difficult. And then yeah, my coach Chintzia was a professional gymnast, and we she's like my second mom. Like they have taken me in, and I lived with them for the last 3 months during my last prep, actually, so that they could really like dial me in. And it's really, really hard. I've taken a break for the last 6 months, because I just got pretty burnt out from it. It's rough.
Yeah, I honestly, the people that do it like nonstop, I consider to be psychopaths, but they're good psychopaths. Like they're not gonna go out and like murder people, but like the people that do this, constantly, it's like you got to be a little bit crazy just because what you go through and what your body goes through. And what was probably the biggest thing that you found out about yourself from becoming a bodybuilder? Because a lot of people they talk about the physical changes, they don't talk about so much of the mental changes, but the mental changes outweigh the physical so much. But what was probably the one thing that you found out about yourself through this whole journey?
I'm really hard on myself. It's so honestly, I am a l- this sounds funny, but like I'm a lot lazier than I thought. I definitely I if something's hard for me or something scares me, like I know that I should do it, but I do it begrudgingly. I'm like, this is really difficult. You need to do that because you need to get better. But I'm also like, oh, I don't want to do it. But you're just like, well, oh, you just said you don't want to. You kind of have to. So, I mean, this is the first time I've taken 6 months off. I have been competing nonstop for the last 10 years. I've done almost over 30 shows. And so, it but I'm actually at this really interesting point, right now where I'm at a crossroads. I've actually dealt with an eating disorder for a really long time, and I actually kind of got into bodybuilding to try and fix that, and it just kind of band-aided it. And finally, after my last show, I finally got real help, and so now I've actually really addressed that and fixed it, but I have a long way back to the stage, and bodybuilding has been my identity. So I could say like, oh, I learned mental toughness and like I learned not to give up and like all of these things, but I really feel like what I've done in the last 10 years is kind of null and void now. I feel like I'm starting all over at like a whole different mindset. So I'm excited to see what I learn now. Because yeah, the last 10 years was kind of like band-aids of I would think that I was learning something and then I'd slip right back. So I don't know. I'm at a really if you would have interviewed me a year ago, I would have had this like, oh, I'm going. But like now I'm like, I'm brand new. Like I'm a pro, but I'm new.
That's happened to so many guests that I've had on multiple times. Where, yeah, like the first time you have them on, they're completely one way, and the next they're completely another. And yeah, I'm used to it honestly. And I mean, I made that face when you talked about being lazy because I'm going to a job in 2 hours where I'm dealing with an employee that I have to rely on that is the laziest POS I've ever met in my entire life. So I'm just preparing myself mentally for that while we're talking as well. So that's
Yeah,
if I make that face again when anytime you mention the word lazy, it's kind of like just like a trigger for me where I'm just like, oh God. But you
I
know,
don't want to see that guy. Yeah.
I'll send you a snap. I'll send you a screenshot of him later today when I go to work. It wouldn't be what you expect. He's younger than me. I'm 28. He's like 21 years old, and I've never met someone like that. That's just. I don't want to get too much into it because I don't even know if these guys listen. I don't think they know I do a podcast, but just in case they do, I don't want to give too much away. To be completely honest, the guys that I work with, again, I hope they don't listen to this because like, why would they want to be listening to this? They're like a bunch of butch blue collar guys, so you never know. But I do gotta ask because I love this question more than anything else. Genetic wise, I mean, everyone's built differently. Everyone always has that one body part that really, really takes off that they don't have to train as much, and they have that one body part that just drags behind. What was one body part that took off for you, and what's been one body part that you've just had to drag behind this entire journey?
So my back is I have a great back. Just genetically, I have really wide lats, and my whole family is built that way. So I've got a great V-taper. I wouldn't necessarily say there's like a body part that lags. I'm pretty well balanced, but getting lean is very hard for me. That is definitely the thing that I have to really focus on. Um, I have to start, I have to keep a tight off season, and it takes me a long time to get in shape. So that is definitely because my legs stay very lean, but my upper body, I carry a lot of muscle and fat on my upper body. So that's probably the hardest thing. I do have to grow my quads a little bit. I've got boxier quads. I don't have like a great sweep. So growing those quads are is pretty important. Especially because I do, yeah, I have a very big upper body for my size. So I have to balance that out a little.
Well, I know you've listened to a lot of podcasts, and being 6'3", you can guess what mine is. It's legs, and I okay, we're just gonna get over with. Like when I went to that bodybuilding show that I was talking to you about, I told the guests ahead of time. I said, okay, I'm gonna flash you my calves once, and that's gonna be the one time that you can laugh at me. So I did it. I did it real quick. Anytime I saw them, and they had a little chuckle. Now they're not that. It's not that they're super small. It's just that like for someone who's that tall, like they're not that. Like it's the weirdest thing ever. I don't want to get too much into it because I'll make me feel depressed about myself. I'm looking at them right now, and it's just like, yeah, I could inject pure muscle into them, and they wouldn't even change. I don't understand it. It's just genetics, everyone. We
Yeah.
got to deal with it. But you mentioned your parents. What was your family's reaction like when you announced them? Like, hey, I want to give this a try.
My parents were stoked for
Mhm,
me. The only thing that like, I mean, bodybuilding's expensive,
mhm.
and I was a broke 20-year-old, and I'm paying thousands of dollars for coaching and to travel and on suits and all these things. So they were like, "You can barely pay us back. Like, how are you about to do this?" But they knew how I've struggled with my eating disorder, and they really thought that this would be a good channel for me to learn nutrition. And so they've always been super supportive. Actually, my very first show, my parents, they always joke with me like, if you don't get pregnant by the time you're 21, we'll send you to Vegas with all of your friends. And I was like, so when I was
God, they
20,
set a really low bar for you.
I know. Well, I come from a small town
Oh,
in
okay,
a very
okay,
small
yeah.
place. And so
My
teen
my dad my dad's
pregnancy,
from a town of 180 people, so yeah, I understand that now. Yeah,
yeah, like and that was like in the early 2000s. So it was like every parent's worst fear was to like have a pregnant teenager. And so
you could have been
instead
on
of,
a reality TV show though.
I know that's when Teen Mom was
Yeah.
so prevalent, and my mom watched that all the time, and she was like, "Nah, no, dude." So we instead of them sending me to Vegas, though, they actually paid for my first bodybuilding show out of state, and I think that kind of like set the tone for my 20s. Was just like, okay, we're not gonna drink, we're not gonna do these things. Like you're gonna pursue this bodybuilding thing, and so they've been super supportive. They come to all my shows. My coaches are they promote a lot of shows up here, and my family is always there selling tickets, being usher, like helping out at the shows. I own a meal prep company, and so they are always there helping us with that. And yeah, everybody knows my parents, and they travel across the country to watch me compete. They're great.
That is awesome. Yeah, the family support means so much to a lot more people just because I've talked to so many people that don't have that support and it just makes it so much harder. But I do got to ask, when you're going from an eating disorder to then becoming a bodybuilder, I've heard that story so many times. It's a lot of guess. I would have never guessed that ahead of time, but
Yeah.
you're going from one extreme to another. How did you deal with that mentally? Because you're going from, restricting your calories to now, like, especially in your off season, like you're eating so much food.
So I actually, the way my coaches approach it is I don't eat a ton.
Okay.
I put on muscle really easily.
Mhm.
My maintenance is around 1800, so that's kind of where I stay. And even going through prep, we don't cut hard. So like it's when I'm cutting, I'm maybe 15 to 1600 calories. Like there's only a small difference between my maintenance and my cut. That's why we do a longer prep. I like to prep 20 plus weeks when I'm prepping. Um, I also give myself a buffer because honestly, I'm not always the most strict with myself. And I don't really lock in until those last 12 weeks, which was a big reason why I moved in with my coaches this last year, was so that I could lock in quicker, um, which paid off. I came in with the best placings I have ever had. I got fifth at the Tampa Pro this year, and I did that show for my pro debut, and I got last place. So to go from last place to second in the physique round and fifth overall was really amazing. But dealing with those extremes, I would say I didn't deal with them, and that's kind of why I had to deal with them now. I got some great placings this last season, and I was like, you were still sick. Like I still wasn't 100% on my preps and with my eating disorder. So I was like, what if you got better? Like imagine if you actually healed yourself and did this 1,000%. Like imagine how good you could be. So that's kind of where I'm at now, is getting back to getting back into it and being completely healthy and seeing what I can really do.
I've never said this out loud, but like it's just an observation that I've always made. But it's like I hear some of these bodybuilders' diets, and I was like, in any other life, that would be an eating disorder, basically. Where like if it wasn't for a sport, like all of them, I think do a little bit of an eating disorder themselves,
Yeah.
even if they're the healthiest athletes of all time, just with the restrictions that you do. So I've always just found that fascinating how like some people then come from that eating disorder background and then they get into a sport which also is somewhat of an eating disorder. Again,
Yeah.
it's not like full blown, but it's like yeah, you're like restricting your calories. First of all, 1,800 calories. That's like what I had for lunch at work yesterday. So that's
Yeah,
again, just because I'm so tall and stuff like that, and I eat like I
exactly.
can eat anything, but it's just fascinating how different people's bodies are and how different calories are. But I mean, we gotta talk about the nutrition too, because I mean, the food aspect of this sport is 90% of it. And most people do not understand that the whole abs remain in the kitchen thing is 100% correct. But how did you deal with just the from being to the old restrictions to like the new ones where like you're only eating for a lot of times you're only eating like this type of food for a while. Like a lot of people
Yeah.
just I find that fascinating how people are able to do that for an extended period of time. Because for me, if it's like more than a week, I hate that food.
So I love it. Food is, I'm talking about my eating disorder a lot, but with that comes a lot of anxiety. And so eating from a meal plan, eating the same things over and over actually gives me a lot of comfort. There isn't a lot of like, what am I going to eat for lunch? I've been doing this same meal plan since I was 20, like obviously with small tweaks and things like that. But it's this, I like the consistency of it. I like the way that I eat, and it sounds like, and I can eat a lot. Like that's the main thing. I am not one of those girls that's like, oh, I can't eat all my meals. I'm like, can I eat more, please? And my coach is like, nah, dude, because I put on weight really fast. I can put on muscle really quick, and I can also put on fat really quick, which is in my genetics. Being Hawaiian and Pacific Islander, like we can put on muscle well, but then we also put on a lot of intramuscular fat, which is a lot harder to pull out. So I have to stay really lean in my off seasons in order to be able to achieve the level of conditioning that I need to get. And then also for fitness in general, like I'm 5'2", and so if I put on 10 pounds, I can feel that when I'm training my fitness skills, and that really motivates me to like stay at a healthier body fat.
Meanwhile, my Norwegian guarantees you'll be like 6 feet tall and you'll just be lanky and you'll just have to deal with it. And I'm glad the sun is not out today because again, like good God, we're gonna have to talk about right now. So how do you deal with the whole tan thing? Because just look at the skin for a second. That is like just that look at how the sun reflects off of it. Like it's not like I would have to do about 10 coats myself. But how do you deal with the whole tanning process?
So I mean, being in Alaska, I am actually very pale,
Yeah.
especially for Hawaiian. I normally I'll tan a
I was gonna
little
say, just
bit.
like look at my face, honestly, where half of it is just reflecting pure off the sunlight, and the other half is just here. It's like I'm Two Face, basically. Yeah,
I can see it. Yeah, I mean, my best friend is actually like that too.
yeah,
She's super duper pale and like basically translucent.
yep,
So just so we're like 150 SPF, we just went to Mexico and he needs
yep.
like that black market
Mm-hmm.
sunscreen. But I also am kind of like that as well because my skin isn't used to the sunlight exposure. So I basically just tan a little bit before a show, maybe a few sessions. I tan really easily. And then I have some good undertones. Like my skin naturally has like these orange brown undertones to them. So I use liquid sun rays. I absolutely love them, and they sit on my skin great. I've never really had a messy tan or anything like that. It's pretty simple for me. And if liquid sun rays isn't being done at my show, I bring it with me, and my coaches generally travel with me, and they'll tan me.
Well,
So it's great.
we gotta talk about routines because they're completely different than posing and for bodybuilding. And I mean, it's see we get that reaction every time because it's just a whole different animal that no
Yeah.
other category has to deal with when it comes to the routines. how do you come up with a routine? What to you makes a good routine? Like we'll just get to a routine tangent right now because to me that's the most
Yeah,
fascinating part about that category is that
it is.
yeah.
Yeah, it's really, really hard. For me, it's very hard. I can't carry a beat in a bucket. I am not a dancer. I am not very like physically aware of my body. Like gymnastics and dance really help you learn where your body is spatially, and even in my training, that's why I needed an in-person trainer, because I need someone to put their hands on me to show me what I need to be doing. So when it comes to a routine, I can't even picture it for myself. Like a lot of it's visualization. I can't see myself doing those moves because I've never seen myself doing them. So my coach has really, really helped me. And actually that's why I love fitness, is because it's really shown me a lot about myself. It's taught me what I like what I don't like what kind of moves I like. And the best thing about fitness is you just do, if you're not good at something, don't do it. Like you don't have to do back handsprings if you're not good at back handsprings. You don't have to do handstands if you're not good at handstands. I can do push-ups. Like I'm really great at my fly push-ups. I'm really good at my jumps. I'm good at like my strength holds. So I pack those in there. I find music that I like to do, crowd pleasers, things that that the crowd's gonna like, and so I try and go off that. My last routine was Guardians of the Galaxy themed, which was so fun. I mean, they have the best soundtrack. And then the one that I won my first national show, or the one I won my pro card with, was like early 90s hip hop, which was so fun. But for me, I kind of find my points that I want. Like there's a few moves that I want to hit to certain beats of the music, and then my coach comes in and helps me kind of fill the rest of it in, and then I get 3 or 4 more eyes on it. Like luckily being in the Northwest, I've got a lot of really amazing fitness competitors up here, veterans that have looked over. Tangie's looked over my routine. Rose, I can't remember her last name, but they all look over my routine, and I send them videos and they give me a lot of feedback. I mean, the fitness girls they're amazing. Everybody wants to help each other. We know how hard this is, and people get injured, and it's so nerve wracking and it's dangerous. Like these stages are not made for us to be tumbling and jumping and throwing ourselves onto. So nobody's back there like side eyeing. Like we literally pray. Everybody prays together before we take the stage, and we pray for no injuries and clean performances, and we just support each other, and it's great.
Be completely honest, how hard are those push-ups though when you're that dieted down?
Not that bad.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, for me anyways. Especially like the last show I did was the Tampa Pro, and it's a 2-day show. So we have the physique round on Friday, and then the routines were Saturday. So you dieted down nice and hard Friday, and then by Saturday you are refed and all those things. But for me, my coaches keep my like I said, my coaches keep my diet really consistent. And so actually I'm being fed a lot going into those days. So it's really good. I mean, the practice, the weeks leading into it, yeah, that's hard. That is some gnarly crying. Like, there's a lot of crying. There's a lot of throwing a fit. I have to have somebody there with me through my routine practices because I need someone to continue to push me, because it's gnarly. You're training. For me, a lot of competitors can train their routine like maybe twice or 3 times a week. I have to train mine almost every single day, plus 2 hours of cardio, plus you're lifting. And being a natural athlete, you can't like back off your weights. Like you have to continue to push to keep that density. So I'm getting stronger through my prep as I'm getting leaner, and it's interesting. It's hard. It's really hard.
What is your relationship with cardio like? Because to me, that's the bane of my existence.
I actually like my cardio. I do. I like, right, says me who hasn't done cardio in like 3 months. I had to take a big step away from bodybuilding, from cardio, from everything. But when I'm in it, I enjoy it. It's the one time I get to like watch a TV show, or really like push myself. It's like, yeah, it's my me time. So I don't hate cardio, but I do hate waking up early, which is weird because I get up at 3 in the morning for work a lot of the time. But like 3 a.m. for me isn't morning. It's still nighttime. So like I would rather get up at 3 a.m. than 7 a.m. because like 3 a.m. it's like a special surprise. Like you're going to the airport or something. Whereas like 7 a.m. is just like this is not this is not the move. Like so yeah, I do like my cardio. But I've been out of it. I haven't been doing it for like 3 months and it is very hard to recarve that time out for yourself to really make yourself do it. And once you get into the groove, you can do it. But it's to to prioritize that once you've stopped is rough. Yeah.
I don't get those people that get up at 3 a.m. There have been, I mean, I work late. I mean, not super late. Like I get off at like 9:30, but then I normally get up around like 11 or noonish because I start at work at 1:30. So I'm usually going to bed around like 2 or 3 in the morning. So I've always found that fascinating how, people can get up at that time, but hey, more power to you because yeah, I just look at that and I'm just, yeah, I even messaged you too, where I was like, yeah, you work that early. It's like, bless your heart because like I don't, God forbid, that ever happened to me, I would last probably I actually tried that for one job. I lasted 3 days where the job started at 5:30 in the morning and I lasted 3 days and I was like, yep, can't do it. Can't do it anymore. So sorry. But I mean, let's be honest, you're not the average looking woman, especially as you're getting ready for a show, even in your off season, because like you still have muscle on it. You still have depth and
Yeah.
stuff. But luckily you're in Alaska. So you are covered up probably about, like 9 months out of the year. Yeah,
We're
exactly. I mean,
always in hoodies. It's a good.
absolutely. But the one week that you aren't, when it's like actually warm enough to do that, what is that like? Because I've always compared it on this podcast to being like a celebrity where it's just you'll draw people's attention just because it's human nature when they see something that's not the normal to just be like, oh my God, that's fascinating. What has that been like for you? And has it gotten easier for you to accept that as your journey in this lifestyle has gone on?
I love it. We work really hard to look this way. I've always loved the look. And for me, as I you can't really tell that I lift until I take my shirt off or until I'm in season.
Do you
Um,
purposely try to do like reveals like that just to see like people's reactions? You like purposely like time it up and stuff?
no, because I train in a private
Okay.
studio, so I'm not in a public gym. And then my husband and I own a meal prep
Yep.
company, so we are. I don't really see that many people. I stay, and then when you're that lean, you're cold all the time. So even when it's the middle of summer here, like I'm wearing sweatpants and a hoodie and all of those things. I do love like we normally go to Mexico in like the winter and it's normally around a show time and so I do really love that. I like getting the attention. It's very vain and actually I've put on a lot of weight since my last show. Not in well, it was to heal my eating disorder. I don't feel 100% comfortable with it, but mentally I feel much better. But I did go to Mexico at this heavy weight, and that was a real like slap in the face for me because I'm used to people stopping me and giving me compliments, and I didn't realize how much I liked that until it wasn't there. And my family and my friends are like, "You look fine, like you look normal," and I'm like, "That's the problem. Like I've been working the last decade to not look normal." And for it all to just be gone in 3 months. I mean, I still have a good
Yeah.
base of muscle, like all of those things, but it's under a nice little layer of fluff. And that's very,
It's
that's,
winter weight, everyone. Come on. I do that myself. You got to gain your 5 to 10 pounds in the winter and then slowly wean it off in the summer.
oh, I wish it would have been 5 to 10 pounds. That would have been cute. Like that would have been
Yeah.
great. But it's a whole different process for me. It's definitely given me a lot of empathy for because I've been doing it for so long. I'm just like, you just eat your food and you do your cardio. Like it's not anything. And now I really understand when you've put on a lot of weight and there's a lot of ground to make up. You got a long way to go. It's hard. It's really hard to push yourself into to feel confident and happy in the rest of your life when you're like not fully comfortable in your body right now.
That was the start of COVID for me where I stopped working out for a couple months because I was like, oh, what's the point? Like everything's locked down. So then that's when I had that mini moment myself. And yeah, it takes a lot, but luckily you do have that muscle memory that does help out a lot more than people who like have never worked out before. So,
Yeah.
there is that. But we got to talk about your meal prep company. How did that come to be and how did it get started?
So we started it back in 2018. I got married and then we started this company and I being in Alaska, I worked 3 jobs and then I was bodybuilding, and my husband was in the military, and he also has always been a gym goer and he ate clean. He still eats clean. And it was very hard for us to meal prep. So we started looking for a meal prep company, and there weren't any local ones up here. For one, if you ship anything, it's super expensive to ship up here. And then for two, there was nowhere local that I could trust that would cook my food the way it needed to be cooked, that would portion it the way it needed to be portioned. So I started prepping for people just around my gym, and it was a really necessary thing. And then we got more and more clients, and I ended up quitting my job within 5 months, and we started running it full time. And yeah, we've been doing that for about 5 years, and I love providing the service for people. It's really great. And yeah, it's great to be able to work with my husband. Being a business owner is really difficult. I don't know if it's something I want to do forever. That's kind of something that I'm kind of dealing with right now. I'm having like a whole identity shift, which but the good thing about this whole thing is like it did make me realize I do love bodybuilding. Like I did bodybuilding a lot out of fear of my eating disorder for a long time, like and just wanting to achieve a certain aesthetic. So it was purely out of fear. And once I took that step back, I realized like, oh no, like you truly love this. Like this isn't just because you're scared. You were doing it because you're scared, but now I'm finding other ways to pull from it, but it's making me question different parts of my identity. Like, yeah, do I want to own this company? Do I want to run a full kitchen and have it take over my life? And I don't know. We're kind of in a transitional period right now, but it's hard because I do love the service we provide. I love the people that we work with. I love getting to help people eat healthy because here in Alaska, those options are very few and far between. And I think that contributed a lot to my eating disorder when I was younger. I would get out of sports and I'd be so hungry, and the only place open was Taco Bell or McDonald's. So you go there. I got addicted to Taco Bell, like loved it, and now we can be that different place for people. But it's being a business owner isn't for everyone.
Don't you sometimes wish you had that 16, 17-year-old metabolism still?
No, my metabolism was slow,
Oh,
like
mine was
always.
literally just an assembly line of just, place your food on there, it'll be fine.
Jealous. My husband's that way too. He can eat whatever he
Burgers and
wants. And
shakes when I was 16, 17, like weekly, almost every other day sometimes and stuff. And I was still, I was like 160 pounds then, like 6'3", like yeah. It was
oh my gosh.
I'm up to 205 now, but a lot of it was muscle and then a lot of it is, just getting older too, but so yeah, it was no, I think it was I was probably like 170 actually, but yeah, so yeah, it was
That's still I
I
mean,
was
but you're huge,
blessed.
like 6'3" is a lot of body, like,
Yeah.
that's really difficult. And I think as, like, a female and as a Pacific Islander, like, my metabolism
Mhm.
was just not always the best. It definitely gets better as I prep for shows, like, it gets a lot faster, but, it's been something I wouldn't say I've ever had a great
Yeah.
metabolism, never had a slow one,
Do you
so
get pissed when you do realize that like guys have it so much easier though when it comes to metabolism most of the time? Yep, yep. I would be so
my
pissed.
husband can
Yeah.
eat whatever he wants,
Yeah.
like but he keeps a clean diet.
Well, yeah.
He's a great role model for
Mhm.
me because like, bruh, I've always said, like, after I'd done bodybuilding,
Mhm.
I'm gonna become a competitive eater. Like,
Yeah.
I can put food away, but I can also gain weight like nobody's business. So, it's really, yeah, I get super jealous, and there's just, like, competitors who are genetically gifted and can just like eat what
Mhm.
like not get super low in their calories, not have to do a ton of cardio. But I think that's kind of the highlight reel that you see
Mhm.
on social media. I think the majority of us have to work really hard for that conditioning. We really have to dial everything in, especially if you're a natural
Yeah.
athlete.
My idea for a show, it's never been picked up, but hey, anyone's more than welcome to do it. You have to follow competitive eaters after the show's over and how they get rid of all that food. I want to see that. You can't tell me what does Joey Chestnut do after he eats 75 hot dogs. You can't tell me that it's nothing.
So I watched this guy named Eric the Electric, and he is a competitive eater, and he does do the follow-up of
Yeah.
how he does it. And he basically eats like a bodybuilder diet,
Yeah.
like a girl bodybuilder
Yeah.
diet, like a small, very well balanced kind of thing. And then yeah, he has these days where he just eats tons, but he says, yeah, sometimes he doesn't eat for 2 days because he's so
Yeah.
full and he, like, can't handle it.
Oh, I just wanna see what the bathroom looks like after those guys, because good god.
He also says the bathroom is a rough place to be
Good
for him.
god, yeah, that's gotta be pa how they don't have heart attacks, go out Elvis style or something like that.
Yeah.
I am shocked, but that is, yeah, that has always been super fascinating to me as well. And now it's a question that I ask every single guest as we get close to wrapping things up here, and I mean, I'll continue to ask it to every guest. If you could change one thing about the sport of bodybuilding, if someone were to walk up to you and say, you know, we made the decision, you can change one thing, and everyone would go along with it, what would be one thing that you'd like to see changed?
Hmm. I think a big thing, and it's not even in my division, I would like to see some height caps or some weight caps in women's
Thank you.
physique. Yeah. I think that those physiques are very difficult to judge, and they keep pushing it and pushing it, and I love those physiques. I love women's physique, but it's definitely changed from, like, the Dana Lynn Bailey era, the Juliana Malacarne era to today. I mean, those girls they work hard. Like, it's so impressive, but I think that it pushes a little too far and people get intimidated by that. Like, it's supposed to be a look that maybe isn't quite attainable, but you still want it to be aesthetically pleasing. And there's supposed to be this smaller version of, not even of women's bodybuilding. It's supposed to be a little smaller, a little softer. So I would like to see some height caps and weight caps in some of the women's divisions, because I think that would really give people a better chance at fair comparison for sure.
I have never met a single individual who has yet to convince me how it is fair to have someone who's 5 foot tall and has someone who's 6 foot tall, or even like 5'10" on the same stage and say it's fair to judge them. You
Yeah,
can judge them the same. You just can't. I'm sorry. You just, yeah.
yeah, it's difficult for sure. I think that's what I like about fitness
Mhm,
a lot too, is in our physique rounds, like, obviously we're going as much as we can towards that figure look,
mhm.
but it's not, everyone just needs to come in as their best. Like, there isn't, even somebody who doesn't have like the best X shape, like, could potentially win if they come in the most full, the most conditioned for the division, and their posing is really good. They can still win, versus, like, in women's physique, it's kind of all over the place, and I love that division so much. I think it's such a gorgeous division. But yeah, and even in figure, at some points, it's getting to be a little much. You look at the very top, and that looks great, but then if you look at the maybe fourth, fifth, sixth spots, like, those look a little different. And I know that a lot of the judges, like, you have to judge what's in front of you, right? So, like, it's not their fault that they are picking these physiques. That's just what's there. But and if you look at, like, Sid Gillen, she's amazing. She's natural. She's got nothing is overdone. Everything is balanced. Normally, the top in each division, everything is really well balanced. But as you get a little bit farther out, like, it gets a little murky. But that's all they have to choose from. So I don't know. I don't know how you can mitigate that, but I would like to see some sort of, yeah,
Yeah.
weight caps, height caps to kind of
Yeah,
for the women.
absolutely. And I mean, the question that I'm looking most forward to asking you once I heard about your story is when we do have you on a year from now, because I would like to have you on again in a year, where would you like to be at in your journey? Where would you like to just be at in your overall life? What are some goals that you'd like to have achieved?
I'd like to be prepping for another show. I'm not competing this year at all for the first time since 2014. I've always had a show on the horizon, and that's kind of what kept me on my toes. And I knew I needed to, like, kind of get my life together. And I kind of hide behind preps. Like, prep is my safe comfort zone. And so, which is kind of crazy because, like, prep is, like, uncomfortable and scary, but, like, that's where I feel most safe. And so I really hope a year from now I'll be prepping for another fitness show. I did figure. I competed in a figure pro show in September, which I came in 11th out of, like, 25 girls. So I was pretty stoked on that. But fitness it's really hard, and I want to push myself there. So I got a long way back to the stage. They say it takes like 6 weeks to get in shape and 2 weeks to get out of shape.
Mhm.
And that is very true. And I took a long 2 week break. So it was much longer than 2 weeks, but
Yeah.
it's a so yeah, I'd like to be prepping again, preferably for like Tampa. I've done Tampa the last 2 years. I'd like to do it again. I'd like to place better than I did last time, but it's never about placings for me. It's about nailing my prep. And if I nail my prep, like I don't get in my head. My coaches keep me very focused, and I try not to focus on what I look like. I hire them for a reason. They look at me for a reason. What I think doesn't matter. So
Yep.
um, yeah, that's where I hope to be.
That is awesome. And is there anyone that you'd like to give a shout out to before we wrap things up?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't touch on them enough. My coaches are my second parents. They love me even when they shouldn't like me. Like they don't always like me. But they're truly amazing ambassadors to the sport. They promote all the shows up here in Alaska. They believed in me like from the very beginning. They knew what I could do, and even when I don't know what I can do. So they're truly amazing. If you were to ever have Shinsia would be an amazing guest.
Okay, I was just about to tell you afterwards. Like, I messaged her the same time I messaged you because, like I said, I want to Alaska guest on. So tell her to check her DMs on Instagram then, because I would love to have her on.
I will.
Yeah.
I mean, she came from Italy as a professional gymnast and moved over here with her. Yeah,
Yeah.
she's amazing. I'll let her
Absolutely.
tell her story.
Absolutely.
And then obviously my husband, he's my backbone. Like he pulls me up, he supports me. Like he is so supportive of what I do. He's pushing me out of the bed at 4 a.m. to do cardio. Like he's the best. So without those three, I would be nowhere. So yeah, I love them. I'm lucky.
Well, that is awesome. And again, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story with us. It was an absolute delight to have you on. And yeah, I cannot wait to talk to you again. But yeah, again, just thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. And thank you for doing what you do. Like your content is amazing. We're really lucky to have someone like you telling these stories and having these guests on. And yeah, I hope you can come to more shows. It would be
Yeah.
great. You should come to Tampa. It's a great show.
I don't know. The thing is, like, I went to an amateur show. If I went to a big show where like everyone was like super jacked, it would make me feel bad about myself. To be completely honest, I'd be like, "Good God, I need to start doing some cardio and do some like curls or something like that immediately just to look up." But no, I have wanted to go to one of those expos probably. Like, and the thing is, being in Minnesota, like, you're not even that close. I mean, again, you're from Alaska, so it's even worse for you. But like, the closest thing to me is Chicago, which is like a 6 hour drive. So maybe one of
Yeah.
these days I would go down there. But yeah, absolutely, and I appreciate that. Yeah, it's nice to know that I'm at least doing something with this, which is what I just intend to do, just to get people to share their stories. But again, everyone, go and check out our Instagram page. I'll leave a link down below. You will get inspired to get in shape and stop eating all those Twinkies. And I'll leave a link to her meal prep down below too, if in case anyone's interested in that as well. And again, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. And this is Ryan Johnson, DD on the spot, signing off. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.